everyone. Welcome back to our video lecture. On today's episode, I am going to continue discussing about Unit 4 of our subject, Creative Writing. So without further ado, let's begin. This time, allow me to share my screen to everybody. So in the previous lesson, we talked about setting and scene. At the same time, we also discussed about character. And on this video lecture, we will focus our discussion on the fundamentals of creative writing. So we will focus or highlight on the following um, plot and point of view. I believe you guys learned or already know what plot is and what point of view is, since you have had your literature classes in the past semesters. So I believe this is not like really difficult for you guys. In fact, this will probably just serve as sort of review on what you have learned in your previous class. So let's take a look at what is a plot. A plot is, of course, it is everything that happened in the story from the beginning until the end. That is the plot. And it is also character in conflict in action. Because you guys already learned that when we say story, kumbaga meron tayong mga characters, right? And then the characters are in conflict. Hindi pwede yung kwento natin walang conflict. And I already discussed to you guys in the past, in the previous lectures, what conflict is. And of course, the movement of your character who are in conflict, the movement of your characters who are in conflict, that makes up the plot. As I said, it's the beginning until the end of the story. So this means that the actions that this character does to relive his or her conflict constitute the entire story. And yung entire story, yan yung plot. Okay? Kasi hindi naman pwede na meron kang ngang kwento pero wala namang conflict ang iyong characters, right? So just like you and me, we make action. We take action rather because we are in some sort of we are being challenged. Kaya nga we take action. And for example, ganito lang yun, very simple. So we can understand it even better. For example, if a man finds his wife dead one morning, he will be under a lot of tension. But that's already a conflict. He has to decide what to do about his wife's death. His decision, the action that follows up after that incident, that is the plot of the man's story. So that's the entire thing. That's the plot. Now, in other words, plot is a sequence of events. There is a logical link between the events. We call it the cause and effect. Diba kasi may naka-trigger, there is a trigger, that's why the character is in conflict. And then the character would make a decision or would do something, ano yung magiging mga hakbang, no? That the character would do, of course, that makes up the entire story and a sequence of events. Yan yung plot. So using our example in the previous slide, this man who finds his wife dead, it's either he will decide to find who killed his wife. So therefore, he may go through the things of his dead wife to find a clue as to who may have done it. He may go see her girlfriend to get information, no, yung mga kaibigan ng wife niya. And once he has a suspect, he may try to see that person and so on. And the story keeps on rolling and rolling until masosolve na yung problema, until the conflict would be solved, right? And You can take a look at this link also to know more about plot. Now, when writing your story draft, give your characters a lot of leeway, okay? Because as a writer, make sure that there is a lot of leeway of your characters. So, because it is how literary writers should think. Remember, plot is character in conflict in action. So, hindi dapat yung character mo is very kanang stiff ba? Dapat may mga a lot of leeway, a lot of allowances for your characters. In the editing phase, when you write your story, shape your story so there is a high point and that the story doesn't drag on after the climax. And avoid what writers call the this ex machina, which literally means God from the machine. Okay. So what do we mean by this? So this refers to the ancient Greek tragedies where they use mechanical gods kasi wala nang pwedeng ano, yung mga mechanical gods will be the one to resolve no, yung mga impossible problems. So i-avoid natin yan because those are really not realistic. Okay? Gone are the days na kasi yung mga readers natin, they want things relatable. And if you are a writer and of course you make writing as your as a means of living, you're not gonna do this unless your audience are like kids, no? But at the end of the day, iba na yung taste ng masa or ng tao eh. And the term is used in modern times to refer to solutions that just come out of nowhere. Parang wala bang connection. So wala ka ng way to solve the problem. So there's this God probably no bigla na lang sumulpot and everything is already like solved. Or to put it in another way, solutions that are not integral to the story from the start, which is really, for me, it's not good at all. So avoid those kinds of endings or solutions. Okay. So that is all about the plot. And just to give more information about plot, so we have the stages of plot, right? We start with our exposition. So here you would describe the setting of your story, no? You're giving like introduction or you're setting, okay, the story. And then after that, as the characters, move, and then as different scenes progress, obviously, mayroon ng mga rising action. So, kumbaga, as the story keeps on progressing, may mga iba't ibang mga maliliit na tensions, right? That the characters are experiencing, especially the lead character. And then after that, after the rising, you have the climax. So the climax, obviously, that is like the peak, no? Yung the conflict. And then after the climax, so grabe na mga there is already a sort of mga confrontations and all that. And then later on, it's gonna be like a falling action. So parang little by little, the conflicts are being solved. May mga ano na, and then after that, you have the resolution or the denouement of your story. So most of the time, like writers have really, they're really struggling, like how to start a story and of course how to end the story. Then, kasi pag you already have a good start, most of the time, or if you're really a writer, most of the time, the story progress parang nag-flow na lang yung ideas as you keep on writing. But the most difficult part, one of the most difficult parts is actually how to start it. And then once the ideas keep flowing, no, you took inspiration from your experience or from wherever. And then yung problema mo naman is how would you end the story? Because you want to have an impactful ending or gusto mo yung ending na para bang when your reader reads your story, it's gonna be like, wow, it's unexpected. Para bang you left your readers something with like a bang na hindi nila ini-expect or it is something na very unusual or really very satisfying, no? Or others may also leave it like very mysterious or like a sort of mystery, especially if you are thinking of writing a second part of your story. All right, so that is like the stages of plot according to Gustav Freytag. We have um, we have first exposition, rising action, we have the climax, we have the falling action, and of course we have the resolution or the denouement. Now let's take a look at now the next point of view. So the point of view, it is the narrator of the piece. So it can refer to a specific character who is the narrator of the piece or through whose eyes are we seeing the story. So sino nga ba ang nagnanarrate? Who sees the story? Is the main character, the one, the character who is involved in the story, the one narrating the story? Or is it an observer? Is it somebody from, yung outside? Is the one narrating the story. Now, there are types of point of view. So the first person point of view, the writer actually uses I. For example, the story Vegan written by Cecilia Manguera Brainard. And I think you guys already know about it, that when we say first person point of view, so the narrator is the one who experienced, or it's the character story. So siya mismo yung nagnanarrate ng kanyang kwento. So if I am gonna make a story about my life, I am going to narrate it. I am the character of my story. I'm the one also narrating. That's why the first person point of view, we use the pronoun I. So if we use the first person point of view, it gives a feeling of intimacy, direct involvement. It makes the narrator seem direct, candid, and honest. And in this point of view, the scope of the story is limited to the consciousness of the narrator, which is the I. So yung kanyang perspective or yung sa kanya lang, no? And then in its strictest form, it is only the narrator that knows, hears, feels, thinks, remembers, and observes that should be included in the story. Now, we also have second person point of view. So the writer uses you as the pronoun here. Pero obviously, this is not very common. But one of the stories written by Cecilia Manguera Brainard that uses pronoun you or second person point of view is Tia Octavia. Oftentimes we see the use of second person point of view in cookbooks, no, mga recipe books that they use you. But in stories, it's not quite commonly used. So the second person point of view, as I said, it's rarely used, but some stories also use second person point of view, just like Tia Octavia by Cecilia Manguera Brainard. And then we have third person point of view. So the writer here uses he or she, as in the short story, The Black Man in the Forest. Again, that's written by Cecilia Manguera Brainard. And note, class, that in the first person point of view, the scope of the story is limited to the consciousness of one character. And sino yung character niyan? It's I. Okay, but using the third person point of view, it gives a more removed second-hand account, unlike the first person that gives the feeling of a secret being shared. So yung third person point of view, obviously you observed, okay? But you don't really experience. Hindi ka involved sa story, but you see it. So if you are going to look into intimacy, of course, it's not as similar as the first person point of view. But the thing also is, in the third person of view, pwede rin naman, kasi nakita, no? The narrator sees the story in different like perspectives sa yung nakita niya yung mga characters. But this is not intimate compared to the first person point of view. So commonly, yung ginagamit na point of view to narrate a specific story is either first-person point of view or third-person point of view. So when you write your short story, it is up to you what point of view you're going to use. If you will use I or if you will use the pronoun he or she, no? Or the third-person point of view. So I think that would be all. So since this is the last slide that we have, so that would be all for our Unit 4. It's very short, but it's not a long topic, but I believe this is some sort of just a review, no? Since you probably have already learned about plot and point of view in your previous classes, especially your literature classes. So this is it. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching and taking time to learn from me. I hope you learned a thing or two. This has been your teacher, Miss Mars. I will see you on the next one. Bye bye.